and we are all very eager to hear from you on this occasion of Janmashtami. I heard it's very early morning in Russia, so please forgive us for the trouble that we had to keep the class at this time. It is convenient here in Bangalore. So initially we thought 8 o'clock, but we shifted to 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for that adjustment. Maharaj, some people are joining new for the first time. So I'd like to just briefly introduce Your Holiness. Actually, His Holiness Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj is a very senior preacher in ISKCON. Maharaj is born in Tashkent, former Soviet Union, and he took to spiritual life in 1980 during a difficult time during the communist era in the former Soviet Union, when the national security forces were harassing any type of spiritual practitioner. Despite these obstacles, Bhakti Vijnana Goswami, a scientist, a Moscow State University graduate and postgraduate student at Institute of Molecular Biology, decided to experiment with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And to his great happiness, it moved him profoundly. Now he is a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj and resides primarily in Moscow, Russia, working tirelessly towards the building of the monumental temple there. And he travels widely throughout Russia, sharing Krishna consciousness. Since 1997, His Holiness Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj has acted as a member of ISKCON's governing body commission, and since 2005 has served as one of the initiating gurus in ISKCON. His zonal responsibilities include Georgia and Israel. He also serves as co-zonal secretary for Eastern and Western Siberia, Northwest CIS, Ural region, Moscow, Southern Central region, CIS, Golden Ring, Armenia, Far East, and also GBC for North and South Korea. And on July 1, 2010, the Council for Public Awards of the Russian Federation awarded Maharaj a medal for professional and business reputation, third degree, for his contribution in strengthening Russian-Indian friendly relations and for his contribution to the popularization of the spiritual, cultural, literary heritage of India. So Maharaj is also currently working on writing books in Russian language. He's translating many of the Acharya's Sanskrit writings into Russian so that the message can be accessed by all. So Maharaj came here for that purpose, and we are very fortunate to have his association. We also had the great fortune to learn Sanskrit with him and from him, and we got a lot of inspiration during those days. So we're looking forward again for his presence here, and today we're feeling very fortunate to hear from Maharaj on the topic Aishvarya and Madhurya in Krishna lila. So there's a topic Maharaj had given us. Maharaj, over to you, Maharaj.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyava Paschatya Desha Tarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Ashtaprayeshva Badrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Yantah Pravishimam Vashimam Prasuptam Sanjeevaya Tekila Shakti Darak Swadamna Anyam Shahastu Charana Shravanatva Gadim Pranan Namo Bhagavate Purushartubhyam. Hare Krishna. I am also Very happy to be with all of you this morning, this Sunday morning, which is quite early here in Moscow, and which is not so early in India. And yes, it's a great honor for me to speak in front of all of you. And I have chosen this topic, Aishvarya and Madhurya in Krishna's lila, because this vichar, this consideration, this concept is a specialty of our sampradaya. There are different schools of bhakti, and they present their concept of devotion, and they all propound that there is one Supreme Lord, and his name is Krishna or Vishnu. They all agree with this, and the ultimate goal of life is to attain intimate relationship with this Supreme Lord through the process of bhakti. And the process of bhakti is the method of liberation from the shackles of material world. This is more or less the common basis or common foundation of all the bhakti schools. And sometimes different bhakti schools, they stress devotion to Lord Ram or devotion to Lord Vishnu in his Narayana form, or sometimes in the devotion to Lord Krishna, but ultimately they don't single out Krishna as the supreme object of devotion. Gaudiya Sampradaya is special in this regard, and we all know that the foundation of Gaudiya Sampradaya is Krishna's Tu Bhagavam Swayam statement or sutra. That's the sutra from the third chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the key to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. All Vaishnava Sampradaya, all Bhakti Sampradayas, they revere Srimad Bhagavatam as a very elevated scripture which propounds this notion or this idea that there is one Supreme Lord and we all should worship this Supreme Lord. And sometimes in different sampradayas, they call this Supreme Lord Paramatma, who is playing as boy in Vrindavan, as is explained in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But our sampradaya is special in this regard because they say that the key to understand Srimad Bhagavatam is this Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam verse. Ete chamsa kalach pumsa, Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam. All other manifestations of the Lord, including Lord Narayan, including Mahavishnu laying on the Ananta Shesh, they are either Amsha or Kala. They are either the parts of the Lord or parts of the parts of the parts of the Lord. This is not the full manifestation of the Lord. The full manifestation of the Lord is Krishna. And why Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Lord? Why Krishna is the most amazing manifestation of the Lord? Because he not only manifests Aishvarya or his lordliness, his majestic feature to the fullest extent, according to the conception of Gaudiya Sampradaya, he is the Supreme Lord because he manifests Aishvarya in the fullest possible extent, but not only Aishvarya, Madhurya, his sweetness, totally covers his Aishvarya. So he is the Supreme Lord because he is the fullest manifestation of the Lord, because not any other manifestation of the Lord, not any other avatar of the Lord manifests both Aishvarya and Madhurya to the same extent as Krishna. So that's again the key for us to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, to really understand what Srimad Bhagavatam wants to tell us. And therefore, that's the concept, that's the Sambandha Gyan. We're actually connected with Lord Krishna. We are not connected with Lord Narayan. We are not really connected. Definitely, we are not connected with Mahavishnu or any other manifestation of Vishnu within this material universe. Because three manifestations of Vishnu, Karandakashaya Vishnu, Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, and Kshiradakashaya Vishnu, as Paramatmas in this material world, they are features of this material world. They're maintaining this material world, and jivas in this material world have no real connection with Vishnu. That's again very special for our sampradaya, because nowhere else you will hear this. But Paramatma feature is specific to this material world. It's the mechanism by which Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintains this material world. He accepts these avatars, these three Paramatma features, Karandakashaya Vishnu, Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, and Kshiradakashaya Vishnu, to maintain this material world. But Jiva, being spiritual, has nothing to do with this material world. And because it has nothing to do with this material world, we're not really intimately connected with this feature of the Supreme Lord for this material world, connected with this material world. Our ultimate connection is with the completely spiritual manifestation of the Lord, which is, again, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Not according to our conception, definitely according to Shukadev Goswami and Sutta Goswami, is Lord Krishna himself. So, and in the context of this understanding of this very important tool by which we explain the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam and all the consequences for us which follow from this meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. From this, the concept of Yoga Maya and Madhurya and Aishvarya comes up front. So again, talking about the specialty of our sampradaya, we will see this concept of Yoga Maya. Nowhere else, none other sampradaya speaks about Yoga Maya, as opposed to Mahamaya or Avidya, Shakti of the Lord. Everywhere in the philosophical conception of the Bhakti Sampradayas, we talk about Maya, but there is no special attribution of a special feature of Lord's Maya as Yoga Maya. Krishna himself says, Naham Prakashak Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrita. He in Bhagavad Gita speaks about Yoga Maya. And different acharyas, different philosophers, they differently explain why Krishna calls his Maya Yoga Maya. All of a sudden, he calls his Maya Yoga Maya. And Shankaracharya, while commenting on this verse from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, why it is called Yoga Maya? Because yoga means union. And because this Maya connects Tamagun and Rajagun and Sattvagun together, it's called Yoga Maya. It's just the Maya which mixes these three modes of material nature. Therefore, Krishna calls it Yoga Maya. And he's covered by this Yoga Maya. Okay, fine. It's a good explanation. But what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains is much, much deeper. He says, yes, indeed, this Mahamaya consists of 3 modes of material nature, but this is not yet the reason to call it Yoga Maya. There is a special significance to call internal energy of the Lord, which ultimately covers his real nature from the people of this, from the souls in the spiritual dimension. There is much more important reason to call it Yoga Maya. Of course, when we're talking about the covering of the consciousness of material people, material conditioned souls, then we're talking about Mahamaya. But Yoga Maya is a special energy of the Lord which facilitates the closeness of the Lord with the soul. Why it is called Yoga Maya? Because it brings about this close connection between the soul and the Lord. That's why it's called Yoga Maya. If we look from impartial point of view at the Lord is so great and we're so tiny. The Lord is Anu and he is Vibhu. He is unlimited and we are infinitesimal. This is the two features of the absolute which makes absolute whole. You know, the absolutely great feature of the Lord, unlimited feature of the Lord, and totally insignificant feature of the Lord. How the insignificant feature of the Lord can be closely connected with his greatest feature. How there can be intimate connection between the two. We know that even in this material world, if somebody is very powerful, it's very difficult to come close to him. It's very difficult to relate with him in a normal manner. When we come close to somebody who is very great, we naturally feel some trembling. You know, if you go to Prime Minister of India, naturally you will become very nervous. And this nervousness, this awe and reverence in front of him really deprives the intimacy in the relationship. You cannot just go to Narendra Modi and say, yeah, Narendra, how are you today? You know, let's do some fun together. You know, no, you will say, yeah, Mahodaya, oh, great soul. You know, this naturally being full of awe and reverence, you will approach him, and naturally this meeting with Narendra Modi will be very formal to Narendra Modi. Because what brings happiness to our heart is this feeling of intimacy. You know, you cannot come to Narendra Modi and embrace him. You know, his secretary will explode. You know, you will be driven out from his office because you cannot behave yourself properly. And the main disadvantage of being great, you know, Krishna as God has this great disadvantage. His great disadvantage is that he is so great. And because he is so great, he cannot be really treated as somebody with intimacy. And as we know, he is Raso Vaisaha, he is Rasa. It means that he is craving for the enjoyment. And enjoyment is only coming, even in this material world, we know this, enjoyment is only coming from the intimacy. It's not coming from the formalities. You know, if you behave in a formal way with other people, you become very dry, and other people also become dry. The formalities don't bring joy to you. sometimes in our temples also there is a great deal of formalities. I'm a senior devotee, I'm even more senior devotee, and I'm a sannyasi, and I'm a guru, and everyone is full of awe and reverence. And this is a bhakta, but ultimately it doesn't bring you any joy. The joy is that when you sit together, eat together, joke together, and embrace each other. So, but we know that Krishna's energy is absolutely amazing. The definition of Krishna's energy is that it's agatana gatana patiyasi shakti. That's the Sanskrit phrase which defines Krishna's energy. Krishna's energy can make impossible possible. Agatana gatana patiyasi shakti. That's the definition of Krishna's energy. So Krishna's energy can make the intimacy between the infinitesimal soul and unlimited God possible. And when Krishna's energy facilitates this intimacy between the unlimited God and a very small, tiny living entity, it's called Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya, and that's Maya, that's illusion in one sense, because Krishna never loses his greatness. But Yoga Maya is greater than God. God is the greatest. But according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conception, Yoga Maya, or his internal energy, even greater than the Lord. Because Yoga Maya can cover the knowledge of the Lord about his greatness and facilitate his intimacy, his closeness with the infinitesimal, tiny, small, little individual souls. To cover somebody, you have to be greater than somebody you cover. If you are even little smaller than somebody you cover, then it's not really called covering. Therefore, according to Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, the energy of the Lord is greater than the Lord, but it doesn't diminish his greatness because it's his energy. He agrees to be covered by this energy, and in this way, the sweetness is possible. So this is very, very important, and nowhere else you will find this fine analysis how Yoga Maya covers the consciousness of the Supreme Lord, his understanding that he is the Supreme, and how this Yoga Maya covers the consciousness of the tiny living entities, and gives the knowledge that that they are intimately connected with the Supreme Lord. Why it is so important to understand for us? Because to develop love for the Lord, we need to develop first and foremost one feature, which is mamata, mindness. He is mine. Mamata prema sangata. That's the definition of prema. Prema happens only when you have this possessiveness of the Supreme Lord. He is mine. He belongs to me. When this feeling of mineness is not there, when the living entity does not really develop this feeling that he belongs to me, or at least I belong to him, then there is no question of love. We know, that when the mother comes to a school, there are so many children playing around, running around, but she only has love to her own son. Why to her own son? Because it's her own son. because she has this feeling of mamata, he's mine. You know, there are so many cute boys. And some of the boys may be even much better. They're better behaved, they're more cute, they're more beautiful, they're more gentle. But, you know, mother's son can be very rude and can be ugly. Still, she loves him, not other sons. Why? Because of this mamata. And this mamata, this feeling that Lord belongs to me and I belong to the Lord, is only possible due to this influence of Yoga Maya. Ultimately, this experience of love, which we want to achieve, that's our goal. We know Prema Pumartha Mahan. This experience of love, which is the goal of our endeavors and our practice, is only possible when we develop yoga, when we develop mamata, and mamata is only possible when we come under the influence of Yoga Maya. And when we follow the footsteps of those souls, those great souls who are under the influence of Yoga Maya, that is the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And ultimately, when does it start? It actually starts from the day one. When you're enrolled to Bhakti program in a temple, or when you, come to ISKCON temple, and somebody tells you, you please chant this Hare Krishna mantra, the main feature of the proper chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is you should feel with this sense of belonging to the Lord, that he is mine. Who is this Krishna? Krishna is not just some great supreme Lord who is far away and who has nothing to do with me. From the day one, we have to have this notion or this understanding. He is mine. Only when this chanting will be there will be offenseless chanting. The 10th offense of the chanting of the holy name is that aham mamadi paramo, when you feel that I and mine is the supreme. Great. So unless we understand that Lord is mine and I'm chanting the name of somebody who is mine, who is very closely connected to me, there is no question of offenseless chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. So from the very beginning, this notion that the Lord is, that I'm ultimately and intimately connected with the Lord, and I'm his and he is mine, should be there, and it should be infused in our chanting. And if this conception is there, then the Yoga Maya will start gradually giving us the shelter. The whole path of Gaudiya Vaishnavas is to come from the influence of Mahamaya, which covers our knowledge and infuses in us this feeling of independence, feeling of separateness from the Lord, this prithak bhava, that I am separate from the Lord. So we should come from the influence, from under the influence of Mahamaya to the influence of Yoga Maya. And this influence of Yoga Maya only starts when this notion or this understanding is very firmly established within our mind and within our heart. I belong to the Lord. I have nothing to do with this material world. If we still feel that something in this material world is important, if we still feel that my career, my money, my whatever my, which can be here, my, 2-bedroom flat in Bangalore, or whatever concept of mind is there, if we still attach to this I and mind, aham mamadi paramo, this is the most important. This is of the paramount importance for myself. We will never chant the holy name with feeling. Only when we understand who is mine, the Lord is mine, and I am His. Who is I? I belong to the Lord, and the Lord belongs to me. Only with this feeling we will be able to chant properly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this Yoga Maya is amazing, and ultimately what I want to do today, I want to read a few verses from the 26th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is called Wonderful Krishna. And these verses from this 10th canto, from the 26th chapter, explain the amazing feature of the sweetness of the Lord, how the sweetness of the Lord, due to the influence of the Yoga Maya, will not diminish in the minds of Brijabasis, even though they know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. How this experience of the sweetness of the Lord completely covers his Aishvarya and does not really interfere with their feelings of intimacy. Because ultimately, according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, we have to follow on the footsteps of the Brijabasis when it comes to reading of Srimad Bhagavatam or chanting the holy name. We have to read Srimad Bhagavatam as if we are the inhabitants of Raj. Not even from the, we shouldn't read Srimad Bhagavatam as if we are inhabitants of Madhurya. Not even from the point of view of Madhurya, Dwaraka, what to speak of Bangalore. We are not really inhabitants of Bangalore. If we read Srimad Bhagavatam from this vantage point of view, we will not understand Srimad Bhagavatam properly. We will not really experience the feelings which are there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. To experience all the feelings, we should read Srimad Bhagavatam and hear Srimad Bhagavatam as the inhabitants of Raj, because ultimately we belong to Raj. We should hear the story of Prahlad Maharaj and Nrisimhadev in the same way as the inhabitants of Gokul Vrindavan hear this story, not as the inhabitants of this material world. And therefore, we should know how they relate to Krishna. And this particular chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam explains this very beautifully. So without too much more, I would like to read with you the first verse of the 26th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the purport, which is the translation of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport to this verse, and then we will continue with our discussion. Sri Shuka Uvacha, yes. Evam vidhani karmani gopah krishnasya vikshyate atadvirya vidah prauchu samabhyetya su vismitaha. So Sri Shuka Uvacha, Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, every word in this verse and in every other verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada translated every word of this for our understanding. Evam vidhani, in this way, like this, in this manner, karmani activities, Gopaha, the cowherd man, Krishnasya of Lord Krishna, Vikshya, seeing, Te, they, Atatvirya Vidaha, unable to understand his power. Prauchuh, they spoke. Prauchuh means very excitedly they spoke. They couldn't stop speaking. Actually, one of the commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam, Harishauri Prabhu, the famous inhabitant of Nasik, he says that the real meaning of this chapter is not to explain how the Brijabasis had some doubts about the Supreme Lord, whether he is about Krishna, whether he is Lord or not. But the main meaning of this chapter is to teach us how to speak about about Krishna non-stop. How we should continuously, without any break, to speak about Lord Krishna. And therefore, Shukadev Goswami says, Prauchu, very, excitedly and with a lot of feelings, they started speaking among each other. They gathered together. Sama Bhyatya, approaching Nanda Maharaj. Approaching, Sama Bhyatya means they came to Nanda Maharaj. Suvismita, very astonished. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, the cowherd men were astonished when they saw Krishna's activities, such as lifting Govardhan hill. Unable to understand his transcendental potency, Atatvirya Vidaha, they approached Nanda Maharaj and spoke as follows. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse as follows. During Lord Krishna's pastime of lifting Sri Govardhan hill, the cowherd man simply enjoyed the spiritual bliss of the Lord's activities without analyzing them. But afterwards, when they had returned to their homes, perplexity arose within their hearts. Thus they thought, now we have directly seen child Krishna lift Govardhan hill, and we remember how he killed Putana and other demons, extinguished the forest fire, and so on. At the time, we thought that these extraordinary acts occurred because of the benediction from Brahmanas, or because of Nanda Maharaj's great fortune, or that perhaps this boy had achieved the mercy of Lord Narayan and thus empowered by him. But all these presumptions are false, because an ordinarily 7-year-old boy could never hold up the king of the mountains for 7 whole days. Krishna is not a human being. He must be the Supreme Lord himself. But on the other hand, child Krishna loves when we coddle him, and he becomes morose when we, his uncles and well-wishers, simply worldly cowherd men, do not give him attention. He appears to become hungry and thirsty, steals yogurt and milk, sometimes plays tricks, tells lies, chatters childishly, and tends the calves. If he is actually the Supreme Lord, why would he do these things? Don't they indicate that he is an ordinary human child? We are totally unable to establish the truth of his identity. Therefore, let us go and inquire from the highly intelligent king of Raja, Nanda Maharaja, and he shall free us from our doubts. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the cowherd men thus made up their minds, and then they entered Nanda Maharaj's great assembly hall and questioned him as described in the following verse. Okay, so that's the beautiful verse and even more beautiful explanation given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which in gist explains the whole chapter. You know, the most amazing feature of Yoga Maya is that when there is a meeting between Krishna and the inhabitants of Vrindavan, footsteps of whom we want to follow, when they directly see Krishna, they're completely enamored by his beauty and by his sweetness, and they're so much enamored by his sweetness that even the shadow of a thought that he is the Supreme Lord does not come to their mind. He's mine son, he is mine friend, he is mine master, he is mine beloved, he is Krishna, he is ours. And they don't want to think that he is the Supreme Lord. They're so much in love with him. His beauty is so powerful that they cannot think about anything else. They're only drinking his beauty. And his beauty is so intoxicating. It's actually the effect of his beauty. His beauty completely bewilders them and intoxicates them. You know, the beauty of Krishna is the most powerful drug. Like in this material world, people, they're into drugs. They want to take some special drugs to be put into some illusory happiness of this world. But the most powerful drug, and there are so many different drugs, and heroin is supposed to be the most powerful, but it's not true. The most powerful drug is Krishna's beauty. And if you taste this drug, you're finished. It's like, if people take very powerful drugs, their material life is totally ruined and finished. So in the same way, if you taste even little bit, little fraction of Krishna's sweetness and Krishna's beauty, that's it. You are dead for this material world. Your material life is finished. No way. You cannot really be a normally functioning the member of this society. You may pretend to be so, but your addiction will be completely from inside, making you always longing for this supreme sweetness or supreme experience which is there. In the same way, the Brijbasis, they were so intoxicated by Krishna's sweetness and Krishna's beauty, then during 7 days, they were drinking his beauty and they forgot that they have to eat and drink. You never see the description. Shukadev Goswami doesn't say that, for 7 days they were camping on the Govardhan hill and they were, gathering all the utensils and started cooking something, No. Krishna felt completely happy by absorbing or by taking their love, the love of inhabitants of Vrindavan. And the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they forgot about everything. They forgot that they have to drink. They forgot that they have to eat. It's just it's like this, like people who are addicted to drugs, they also forget about drinking and eating. Sometimes people, they're so addicted to social media or to computer that they even forget that they have to drink and eat. There is a real case in China. One man, he died in the computer, in front of the computer. He was so completely absorbed in this that he forget that he has to eat, and then he died. So of course the difference between inhabitants of Vrindavan and this Chinese man is that they may not eat and drink, but because they're taking Krishna's beauty, they still remain very healthy and very chubby. Nanda Maharaj, he's very chubby. He's not a skinny man. He has a big belly. And so for 7 days they were completely in bliss. But then on the next day, actually on Navami, this Govardhan Lila started on the 3rd day of the bright half of Kartik. On the first day there was this Govardhan Puja on Pratipat. On Dvitiya there was this Yamuna, what is it called? Raksha Bandhan. This when the sisters put the special wrists to special bands to their brothers. Bratri, what is this? Anyway, this special Raksha Bandhana festival. And on the 3rd day started the rain. Indra became very angry. And for 7 days till Navami, this rain was going on. So on Navami day, they all came out from the hill, and they were so excited and they were so happy, and they were embracing Krishna, and they were congratulating each other that how they miraculously were saved. So nobody thought that something was wrong. But on the 10th day, and this event takes place on Dashami of Ekadashi, on the 10th day, they woke up with a strange feeling. This is too much. Before that, Krishna was doing so many miracles, and nobody thought that there is something strange. And here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains how they usually thought about these miraculous events which take place in Vrindavan. They had 3 very rational explanations. The first explanation was is that our Nanda Maharaj is so pious, and he's such a great pious soul that Lord Narayan always protects his son. That's the first explanation. We all know that if somebody is pious, then the power of Dharma protects him. Dharma rakshati rakshitaha. This is the very important aphorism, very important sutra from Mahabharata. The whole meaning of Mahabharata is that if you are pious, if you follow Dharma, Dharma will protect you. Dharma rakshati rakshitaha. The somebody who is really trying to protect Dharma, follow very strictly Dharma in his life, then he will be protected by Dharma. So that's the first explanation. Brijabasis are very pious, and Nanda Maharaj is most pious out of them. And they say, of course, naturally his son is always protected because he is so dharmic. So the second explanation is even more important. They say our Brahmanas are so good. Our Brahmanas are so powerful. They do such a powerful yagyas, then we're all protected by their yagyas, by their piety, and they're very proud of their Brahmanas. It's see, this is all mentality of the simple inhabitants of Vrindavan. They're very simple-hearted, and they say, yes, our Brahmanas are so powerful that they can protect us, every one of us, from all the dangers. They have this unflinching faith in the Brahmanas. And the third explanation is that, yes, Krishna must be exceptionally lucky. He has good karma. That's the way of thinking of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. They think, yeah, Krishna is an ordinary child, but he's, of course, not really ordinary. He's very special. He has very good pious credits, and he came, and we are very lucky that he's here. So for many, many years, for 7 years, they were able to explain all the miraculous events by this rational reasoning, starting with Putana. When Krishna was 6 days old, he killed Putana. And they thought, okay, yes, Lord Narayan actually, because Nanda Maharaj is so pious, that happened. And for so many years, they were using this rationale. But when Krishna, for 7 days, was holding Govardhan Hill in one hand, for them, it was really strange, They probably would be much more happy if Krishna would sometimes put Govardhan Hill from the left hand to the right hand, from the pinky finger to his thumb, But they thought that's really strange. For 7 days he was holding. You all know, if you lift some heavy thing, you just want to put it for 7 days non-stop. And when these 7 days were going on, they didn't think about it. They didn't have time to think about it. They were so enamored and so mesmerized by Krishna's beauty. But when this all finished, they started thinking, and they said, that's too much. And after going through this amazing experience that Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, and not only, Govardhan Hill, we call this Govardhan Hill because now it's a hill. But for the inhabitants of Vrindavan, it was not the hill. It was Girivara. It was the best of the mountains. At that time, Govardhan was the highest mountain. It was 1 yojana high, 8 kilometers high, 1 yojana or maybe more, I don't remember, but at least 1 yojana high. The greatest mountain in the world now is 7 something kilometers high, 7 plus. Govardhan was higher than this. It was not, it was not a joke. It really was the highest mountain. And Krishna easily lifted this highest mountain, and nobody thought that something is strange, because they were totally covered by this yoga maya. But in the separation from Krishna, sometimes Aishvarya comes forward. And the explanation, the beautiful explanation, which is given by our acharyas, is that meeting with Krishna, meeting is like the moonshine. When Krishna is there, and when you see Krishna, it's his beauty shines, and it makes the darkness of this world to dissipate, but in a very gentle way, exactly like the moonshine also dissipates the darkness, but does not really show all the details of this world. We know when there is a full moon night, there is a gentle moonslide, and everything looks very romantic. You can very clearly see there is a lot of sun, enough light to see everything, but at the same time you don't see everything. But they say that the sunshine is very fierce, and when the sun shines, then you can see all the small details, and it shows it in a very sharp way. So in the same way, when the Brijvasis, they meet with Krishna, they feel this, Krishna is Krishna Chandra. He's like the moon. He gives them knowledge. They understand, but what is this knowledge? This knowledge is this knowledge of love. In the same way as the full moon invokes this feeling of love in the hearts of people, in the same way, when inhabitants of Vrindavan, Vrajavasis, they meet with Krishna, this his beauty invokes this feeling of love within their heart. But when there is separation, separation is so strong, it's like sun. So when they separated with the Lord, all of a sudden they start realizing maybe Krishna is something very special. So in the same way, in this particular scene, when Krishna went out, and it specifically said that Krishna was not there. If Krishna was there in the assembly of Nanda Maharaj, they would never say these things. They might have thought all these strange things, that maybe Krishna is the Supreme Lord in their homes. But when they would come to the assembly hall of Nanda Maharaj and they would see Krishna, they would immediately completely forget about this. They would say, oh yeah, la 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 la, Hare Krishna. And they would embrace him and would sniff or smell his head and, give him some gifts and, would start joking with him. Even though they might have had these doubts, they would never be able to express even these doubts. They will never be able to speak it loudly, because they would experience the sweetness of the Lord. But in the separation, sometimes they get this feeling. So they came with this feeling that maybe he is the Supreme Lord. And from this point of view, they started seeing all the pastimes which Krishna performed in Vrindavan. They started rethinking, what happened in Vrindavan. Initially, they easily explained all these events by using this rationale, these three reasons which are mentioned here. But thinking back from the point of view that Krishna for 7 days, and it was too long. All other events, they were, really quick, and Krishna didn't really give them the chance to think more. But here, they were thinking for 7 days, he was holding this huge mountain. How could it happen? And they started thinking, what happened when he was 6 years old, 6 days old. They started describing in all the details all these pastimes. They said, when Krishna was 6 days old, he couldn't properly even open his eyes. We know when the little babies are born, they have difficulties of opening eyes. They're always sleepy. It's easier for them to close the eyes. If you see these little babies, they always, they're half asleep. Then even when they're awake, they're not really awake. So they started remembering these pastimes with that much details. Actually, this detailed remembering about pastimes of Krishna means dhyan, means meditation. If we want to meditate on Krishna, we have to remember these minute details. Shukadev Goswami explains these little beautiful details, and Acharyas, they explain them even more to facilitate our meditation. If we want to develop love of God or a relationship as much as Brijvasis have relationship with the Supreme Lord, we have to remember, we have not only to remember, we have to cherish all these small little details, how this pastime happened or how that pastime happened. So while remembering this first pastime about Putana, they said, no, actually, even before that. Anyway, let me finish with this, and then I will go a little back. So while remembering this pastime with Putana, they, this beautiful image of baby Krishna with half-closed eyes come to their mind. And how this baby Krishna, who couldn't even himself without help of others open his eyes, how his baby Krishna killed this huge demoness. And they compare it with the power of time. The power of time is so powerful. The time is so powerful that it sucks our youth without any endeavor. That time doesn't really open his eyes. The time is so powerful. So they say, maybe he is the time personified. Maybe he is the Supreme Lord. But the most amazing thing in the second verse, they will say, how he performed this atyat bhutani, karmani atyat bhutani. Why he performed this amazing pastimes? But how is that possible? Because he was born among us who are atma jugupsitam. From the point of view of his greatness, we're so low. Atma jugupsitam. So that's the first very important feature, because now we're trying to understand the feelings in the minds or in the hearts of Brijbasis. The first thing which they say, we are very low. We're very low born. And how he is so great. And that is very important philosophical point which we have to understand. To really appreciate Krishna, we should not be proud. The first condition to experience sweetness of Krishna is humility. If we don't have humility, we will never be able to appreciate sweetness of Krishna. Duryodhana saw Krishna. And how did he see Krishna? Did he see his sweetness? No. For him, Krishna was just somebody, he didn't appreciate the sweetness of Krishna. Sometimes devotees, they have this wrong idea that how I can appreciate Krishna if I never seen Krishna. But even if you see Krishna, you will not be able to appreciate Krishna unless your heart is properly tuned. And in the first verse, the Brijbasis, they explain, how we will be able to appreciate real sweetness of Krishna, only if we have humility within our heart. Anyway, so they started speaking about Putana. Then they said Shakatasura, when he was 3 months old, and they even, they say only 1 month old. Actually, that happened when he was 3 months old. He destroyed this huge cart. Shakat means cart, but this cart, actually Acharyas explained that this cart was not just an ordinary cart. If it was an ordinary cart, it may not be, if you see in Vrindavan some carts, they're really, not very impressive. You touch them and they may completely break. These carts which they're still there. But this cart, the Acharyas say that this cart was so huge that it needed 6 bulls to carry this cart. And not over 6 bulls would carry this cart. It was actually the huge truck. It was huge, like a big truck, you know. Sometimes you see these huge trucks, you know, which are, you know, I don't know, 6 meters long. So this cart was huge, and on the top of this cart there was huge pots with ghee and with yogurt, heavy, you know, like for festival cooking they use special pots. So these pots were there on this cart. And Krishna just, you know, he was 3 months old, and before that he couldn't even turn on the side. He was so weak and so sweet that he was just laying on his back, and it needed help of his nurse or mother to turn from one side to another. So on this day, when he killed Shakatasura or destroyed this cart, Krishna, for the first time in his life, he turned from one side to another side. It was the huge festival because the maidservant of Yashoda, in the morning, she came to the bedroom where Krishna was sleeping, and she was amazed because Krishna himself turned into side, and she was so excited. She ran to Yashoda and she said, Krishna himself turned on the side. And Yashoda became so excited, and she said, let's make big festival. This is a huge, you know, cause to arrange a big festival. Let's cook, let's invite everyone, let's celebrate this. Krishna was able to do this. And this little baby Krishna, who before that couldn't even turn on the side, you know, by just touching this cart, destroyed completely the cart, and, you know, all the utensils, all the huge pots, all the yogurt was split over all over the place. You know, when Brijbasis ran to this place, when Shakatasura Vada took place, you know, there was a, you know, yogurt and ghee, everything was spilled out because from all these huge pots. And they said, now looking back, they again remembering all these details, and they're meditating on Krishna in exactly the same way how we should meditate on Krishna to develop love for him. So you know, basically they went on explaining different pastimes. They remember about Trinavarta, and then they remember about how he was stealing butter. And while stealing butter, they became completely puzzled, because they said, you know, he's so naughty and so strange. He was stealing butter from everywhere, and you know, but at the same time he uprooted all these huge Arjuna trees. But at the same time, you know, the doubts was there, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was saying. You know, he was so behave in such a strange and erratic way. You know, he was breaking the pots. He was so naughty. And not over, he was breaking the pots. He was breaking the pots in his own house. And his mother had to punish him. So, and then they were remembering about Pralambasura, huge demon, huge, amazing demon who was killed by Balaram, and they all knew that Krishna facilitated this. They remembered about Kaliya, how Krishna danced on the heads of Kaliya. So they came to Nanda Maharaj expressing these doubts. And what did Nanda Maharaj said? Nanda Maharaj actually started smiling. And he said, oh, yeah. There is a saying that those who are cowherds, they never become adult till the age of 80. They're so simple-hearted. They're always like children, you know. All these Gopals, Abhiras. They're simple-hearted people. And Nanda Maharaj started smiling and saying, what you're saying. Actually, the most important doubt which they had, and this is explained by our acharyas, and the most important doubt which they have, and very solid doubt. Actually, this doubt shows how knowledgeable they were. All these events were strange enough, but the most important doubt which inhabitants of Vrindavan had when they came to Nanda Maharaj at this particular moment of time was that somehow or other, in a very strange way, we love Krishna more than ourselves, and we love Krishna more than our own sons, and even more than ourselves. So basically, while saying this, they say Krishna must be God, must be the Supreme Lord. Why? Because we love our sons and our possession because it relates to us. We love us because there is Atma, but even more than Atma, we love Paramatma. That's their logic. That's their amazing philosophical logic. That's actually the logic of Upanishads. What is the most dear object in our life? The most dear object of our life is our Atma. But Paramatma, which is the soul of our soul, is even more dear. That's Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are coming to Nanda Maharaj and they say, somehow or other, in a very strange way, we love Krishna so much that we are ready to sacrifice our life for him. If something is wrong with him, we will not think twice. We will give everything for him. Our love for him is so strong. Can you explain the cause for our love? He must be God, because otherwise we cannot love him so much. And Nanda Maharaj, of course, he smiled and he said, oh yeah, you are just simple, childish, like cowherds. You just, due to the association with the cows, instead of brain, you have some cow dung inside. Because we know the more we associate with somebody, we become like them. We adopt the same qualities as them. And Nanda Maharaj started joking with them. How you can say that he is the Lord? He cannot be the Lord. No way. Why Lord will tell lies? Why the Lord will break pots? Why the Lord, the Lord is Atmaram. He's self-satisfied. Is Krishna self-satisfied? When he's hungry, he starts, he becomes angry. When we know sometimes even ourselves, when we become really hungry, we become really irritable. We start yelling at other people, and I'm afraid that you will be very angry at me because I'm depriving you the breakfast. Nanda Maharaj started arguing with the Brijbasis. He said, my child, my Lala, he becomes angry. He starts breaking something and he starts crying if I don't feed him. And how many times I have to feed him? At least 10 times a day. Other little children, they're satisfied with 2-3 times a day. My Lala, he wants to eat every time when he sees me. He sees me and he always asks me, give me some sweet and give me something, How he can be the Supreme Lord? Supreme Lord, we all know, he is self-satisfied. He is Atmaram, he is Aptakam. all his desires are fulfilled. My Lala, he has so many desires. I cannot fulfill all his desires. I have to run a whole day, and Mother Yashoda, she's cooking all day long, you know, to satisfy his desires. How he's the Supreme Lord. And then he started explaining them. He started pacifying them. That's the way of his pacification. He started saying that, you know, Garga Muni came and he's a great sage. And when he was explaining to me who is my son, he said, your son is really great, and he is Narayana Samo. He is almost like Narayana. He is quoting verbatim, basically word by word, the verses which Garga Muni told him. The only little editing which he makes, and it's also very interesting and very sweet in this particular chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nanda Maharaj, he repeats all the verses which Garga Muni told him, but he changes, he makes little change. Garga Muni tells, your son will be like this, your son previously was born to Vasudeva, and he was born in every age, in every yuga, and he was born as black, and he was born as white, and he was born as yellow, and he was born as red. So he's telling this to Brijabasis, but instead of saying my son, he says your son. He is actually saying that Krishna is not my son. Krishna is the son of all of you. He is very generously sharing his possessiveness with all the Brijbasis. He is our son. He is saying, not my son, not your son. He's saying our son, our Lala, our child. And that's also very important. That's the only little change which Nanda Maharaj is making while speaking the verses which Garga Muni told to him. And then he says that he's Narayana Samobhutva. He is basically on the level of Narayana. And then he gives his own purport to what Garga Muni said. It basically means, you know, literally it means Narayana Samobhutva. He is Narayana himself. He is the same as Narayana. But how Nanda Maharaj understands this Narayana Samabhutva, he says, it means that a little particle of Narayana entered my son. Amsha of Narayana, he is there with my son, and therefore all these miraculous things are happening. Actually, he is my son. But little particle of Narayana entered him, and when he makes all these miracles, it's not him who is making these miracles, it's little particle of Narayana, who is Almighty Supreme Lord, creates these miracles, but he remains my son. He remains not my son, he remains our son. He is our son. Nothing else. He is our son and nobody else. So basically, that's what he says. He interprets in a very roundabout way what Garga Muni told him, and he says, yeah, this is just, you know, his little Avesh, and sometimes Narayan manifests himself, but ultimately he is my son. So that's the unflinching love of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And all the Brijbasis, when they heard this, they became pacified. They said, oh, thanks God, our Krishna is not God. That's that was their prayer. Actually, when they came to Nanda Maharaj, they came in a prayerful mood. They came with this desire, please dissipate our doubts. We have this strange doubt that Krishna is God. Please destroy this doubt, smash this doubt. please tell us that Krishna is not God. And when Nanda Maharaj told them, no, Krishna is not God, just little particle of God is working through Krishna, acting through Krishna. They became so happy, they became so pacified. They said, okay, thanks God, Krishna is not God. That's the conclusion. And it is said that when after that, Krishna came to the assembly because Krishna was not there. And when Krishna came to the assembly, they thought, how we can even think that Krishna is God? He's so sweet. He's so beautiful. And they started giving him some sweets and some little toys, because Krishna was only 7 years old at that time, and started embracing him and coddling him and pampering him and doing all kinds of things. So that's the sweetness facilitated by Yoga Maya. And Krishna himself, his knowledge of his godhoodness, or how you say this, that he is God himself, is also covered by Yoga Maya. And without understanding this, how Yoga Maya facilitates love of inhabitants of Vrindavan and the Supreme Lord himself, we will never be able to understand what is going on in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, it's very interesting and very important. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that there is one verse in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the concluding verse of the 8th chapter of the 8th or 6th chapter of, I think 8th, of the, no, 6, when the Krishna showed his universal form. Please listen very carefully, because that's important. In this verse, Shukadev Goswami says that he actually gives the path which we have to traverse. He says that the followers of Upanishads, they think that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Absolute Truth, is impersonal Brahman. And that's the first step of understanding who is the Supreme Lord. He says then Sankhya, the followers of Sankhya, by Sankhya, he doesn't really mean Sankhya, Nirishvar Sankhya, by, dualistic Sankhya. By Sankhya, he means the same which Krishna means in Bhagavad Gita. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called Sankhya Yoga. And Sankhya Yoga means the yoga of discrimination. He says that the followers of Upanishads and Vedas, they think that the Supreme Lord is impersonal Brahman. When they become more discriminate, when the discrimination comes to them and they become followers of Sankhya, they understand that there is one personal God who is behind everything. So that's the next step. To understand that God is impersonal is the first step. The next step, to understand that ultimately more higher conception of God is personal God. That's the followers of Sankhya according to this verse. The step number 3 is the followers of yoga. The followers of yoga, they want to connect with the Supreme Lord through meditation. Nowadays it's very popular, Ramdev Baba, can teach you meditation. Or there is this pilot Baba who goes to Samadhi, all this Baba or that Baba. They teach you meditation. What is meditation? Meditation is to connect you with the super soul within your heart, to give you the vision or darshan of the super soul, Paramatma within your heart. That's the followers of yoga. That's the third step, the third understanding. The fourth understanding is the understanding of Pancharatra, because Sankhya understands there is Paramatma. Yoga teaches how to see Paramatma, how to deal with Paramatma. The followers of Pancharatra Vidi, which is the fourth step, they worship the Lord in the form of the deity. And their understanding, because it is said in this verse that Sattvatai, this is the followers of Pancharatra. The followers of Pancharatra, they serve the Supreme Lord in the form of the deity. And by saying this, going through the steps, they say there are different conceptions of the Lord. I say, but what is the conception of Mother Yashoda? For her, he is her son. And that's the fifth step. You know, in our spiritual journey, we ultimately have to come to this fifth step, the highest realization of the Supreme Truth. Who is Krishna? Who is the Supreme Lord? He is my son. He is my beloved. He is my master at the very least, but he is my friend. So we can understand the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam only if we understand this verse. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they have this understanding. Yes, he is the Supreme Lord. He may be the Supreme Lord. We don't care. You know, in one of the next chapters, practically immediately after that, what happened? Krishna really tested the sweetness or steadiness of the love of the inhabitants of Vrindavana by immediately after that showing the pastime of Varuna Dev. Because as we said, on the 10th day, they expressed their doubt to Nanda Maharaj. On the 11th day, Indra came to Vrindavan. On Ekadashi day, Indra, remorseful, started crying and was offering prayers to Krishna, and Krishna chastised him. On the 12th day, Nanda Maharaj in the morning came to Varunalok. The demoniac servant of Varuna dragged Nanda Maharaj from Yamuna to Varunalok. Immediately after that, and Krishna came to Varunalok practically immediately after this Govardhan Lila in a couple of days. And Nanda Maharaj saw Krishna that he's being worshipped by Varuna. And Nanda Maharaj came back to Vrindavan and he said, you know, maybe you're right. You know, here in this pastime, he says, no, Krishna is not the Supreme Lord. It's just a little amsha of the Supreme Lord came to him. But in a couple of days, on Dvadashi day, Nanda Maharaj came back to Vrindavan and he said, you know, maybe you were right. Maybe he is the Supreme Lord. Because Varuna Dev put him on a throne and was worshipping him. And then all the inhabitants of Vrindavan on the full moon day of Kartik, they came to Krishna and they said, Krishna, come on, Krishna. Now we know you're the Supreme Lord. Please tell us how we can get liberation. And Krishna showed them first the impersonal Brahman, first Goloka, then Vaikuntha, then impersonal Brahman, and then he showed them Vrindavan, and they said, okay, we understand everything, we come to Vrindavan. They actually were not impressed by impersonal Brahman, they were not impressed by Vaikuntha, they felt uneasy there. And when Krishna said, you know, your ultimate destination will be Vrindavan, they, with great relief, they said, okay, Krishna, very good. Now we know you're the Supreme Lord, but you are our friend, our best friend, and our best well-wisher, and our best beloved child. So, and you will always remain like this. So therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that is the last thing which I will say now, because it's already too late. He says that it's not that inhabitants of Vrindavan doesn't know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Sometimes they do know that he is the Supreme Lord. Sometimes in certain occasions, this understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord comes to their mind and to their heart. But despite this knowledge is coming to them, they not become, this knowledge does not really break their relationship with Krishna as their beloved son, or as their beloved friend, or as their beloved master, or as their beloved, paramour. Despite of the knowledge, they still maintain this understanding. He is our son, he is our friend, he is all in all for us. In the same way, we may know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. We know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. But despite knowing that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, we still at the same time have to have this understanding that despite of being the Supreme Lord, he is very close to us. And he wants to be close to us. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls this Madhurya Gyan. He says that there is Aishvarya Gyan, the knowledge that Krishna is great. But when we speak on, when we study the scriptures, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we also have to have Gyan, knowledge. But what is this knowledge? It's a different kind of knowledge. It's Madhurya Gyan. It's the knowledge of Krishna's sweetness. That's the most important. And the knowledge of Krishna's sweetness gives us experience of Krishna. While reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to understand and we have to really imbibe this conception that Krishna is so sweet. And with this knowledge of Krishna's sweetness, we will not be inhibited in front of him. Krishna doesn't want us to be very inhibited, very, overwhelmed by awe and reverence in front of him. He wants us to relate to him in a very simple way as the inhabitants of Vrindavan, even though we know he is the Supreme Lord. Yes, he's standing there, he's playing the flute, but we are not afraid of him. He is our best friend and best well-wisher, and in this mood we chant his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Only in this mood, not in any other mood. We chant his holy name in this mood, and Krishna, he relates to this mood, and he reveals, he can reveal his sweetness in the holy name accordingly if we chant this in this mood. If we chant the holy name, if we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra in this mood, then Krishna will reciprocate with us. And if we chant, yes, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, let me get some favor from him, well, that is called Bhaktinam or Muktinam, or let's get liberation from him, let's get something from him. But no, from the very beginning, we should try to chant the holy name properly. He is the Supreme Lord, therefore, he is the center of creation. He is Parama. He is the Supreme. But how he is the Supreme? Why he is the Supreme? Because he is mine. He belongs to me. And because he is so close to me, and he wants me to come to Vrindavan and to stay with him eternally. In this mood, if we chant Hare Krishna mantra, then we will become successful. Anyway, I'm really sorry for this long and chaotic class. I thought I should speak about this. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. It was, as some Jodis are commenting in the chat box, that this was real breakfast. You are mentioning in the class that for 7 days, 7 nights, Vrajavasis under the Govardhan mountain did not cook, did not eat anything, but they were drinking the beauty of Krishna. So similarly, you also made us drink the nectar of Krishna through your katha by enlightening on a very important topic and very less often discussed topic. Thank you, Maharaj, for choosing this topic and explaining it in such detail. We started from topic of Yogamaya, how Krishna agrees himself to be covered by Yogamaya, and then you said that we have to develop prema. Then that prema is possible by developing mamata, thinking that Krishna is mine, and that mamata can be achieved only by the mercy of Yogamaya and many other topics. So thank you. It's worth this topic is worth contemplating for many weeks. So much content you have given, Maharaj. I'd like to surely contemplate on this topic and try to understand more deeply this topic. Maharaj, would you like to take any question?
Yeah, a couple of questions I can take.
Yes, Maharaj. So there are some comments coming here. If anybody has any questions, you can. You're allowed to unmute. You can unmute and ask.
I don't hear anything.
Manamarigantu, you're not able to hear you. I think where is the mic? Mic setting has to be changed. In the meantime, there is comment coming here. Sundarup Shampoo says, please accept member of Essences Maharaj. Very deep and brilliantly presented the mode of chanting and our connect with the Supreme Lord. Thank you so much. Sankar Shantrapur is telling Pranam Maharaj, wonderful class Maharaj. You took us through time machine to the age of Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Dhanvat Pranam Maharaj. Myself, Vanamali Govindas from the ICC temple. As you mentioned that feeling of Krishna as mine is very important for us to relate with him. So, sometimes I feel that feeling that mineness, that Srila Prabhupada is mine or a senior devotee is mine is more easier than to feel that for Krishna. So is it a correct understanding or the feeling?
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. But ultimately you have to come to this understanding that Krishna is mine. But we should start somewhere. Yes, we start with Prabhupada, with our spiritual master. He is mine and only mine. Well, actually, we have to be generous. As I said, Nanda Maharaj is very generous when he says, he doesn't say Krishna is mine. He says Krishna is ours. He belongs to us all. Yes, definitely. We should start somewhere, but ultimately, Srila Prabhupada brings us to this point to understand Krishna is mine. Now I don't hear you again.
And now is it audible, Maharaj?
Yes.
One more question was that any tips on balancing intimacy versus distance? Because we have to keep some distance with devotees, otherwise it breeds familiarity. So it is necessary to be intimate, but at the same time, sometimes we have to keep distance.
See, that's the art of relationship. Relationship means you have to be intimate enough, but at the same time not contemptuous. But the relationship develop if you properly behave. First, we have to be established in this, proper gentle mood, dealing with the devotees. But the proper relationship should develop, the dynamic should be there. You know, yes, in the beginning, we should not try to be too intimate because we know it will bring contempt. Familiarity brings contempt. But at the same time, we should not be also satisfied with this distant relationship based only on the etiquette. If we think, you know, yeah, I'm behaving properly, let everyone behave properly with me, and that's it, then we're missing something very important. And the dynamic in the relationship should be that, yes, we become more and more like, you know, why Brijbasis can be so intimate with Krishna, because they have huge, you know, they're really, they're not in awe, in reverence, they are in complete bliss about Krishna's qualities. They appreciate Krishna's qualities. Their appreciation of Krishna's qualities is so deep, then the intimacy does not turn into familiarity. Our intimacy turns into familiarity only when there is no appreciation of the qualities, wonderful qualities, which other devotee or Krishna have. So they can be so intimate and close to Krishna because they have such a deep appreciation of his wonderful qualities. And, you know, Duryodhana can never be close to Krishna. Krishna will never allow Duryodhana to come even close to him because Duryodhana doesn't have appreciation. So, you know, the relationship, the dynamic of relationship should be that we deepen our appreciation of devotees. And by deepening the appreciation of devotees, we can come closer to them without being familiar or contemptuous to them. So that's what I want to say about this. Yes, we have to keep the distance, but at the same time, we have to shorten our distance by trying to appreciate the qualities of devotees more and more and more without, you know, fault-finding mentality. That's the point.
Hare Krishna. Anybody has any question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. May I ask a question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Sankarshan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. I have one question, Maharaj. The fourth level, Maharaj, you indicated about establishing the relationship through Pancharatrika Vidhi. So, as a practicing sadhaka, how we can understand this, Maharaj? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, we start at this level. We conceptually we understand who is the Supreme Lord, and we start at this level by studying the scriptures, and especially Srimad Bhagavatam. We start here, and that's where the sadhana bhakti starts. Sadhana bhakti starts at this level. We already, by Sambandha Gyan given to us by our acharyas, we already passed the previous stages. We are not really interested in, you know, impersonal Brahman. We know that this is lower conception. We are not really interested in understanding of just theoretical understanding of Paramatma as the source of this creation. We are not really interested in yoga. Because this is again very distant understanding. We start with this Pancharatrika Vidhi, and that's called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. By following Vaidhi, by following the rules, we purify our heart, but we have to really understand where it should bring us ultimately. It should ultimately bring us to Vrindavan. So, therefore, it is said that till the level of Nishtha, we follow Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. On the level of Nishtha, when our steadiness in worship, in chanting the holy name becomes very great, then we can feel some ruchi, some taste after the stage of nishta. And this stage, there is the point, the turning point, when we can really practice Raganuga sadhana, which is less confined by the rules and regulations and more based on the personal relationship with the Lord, on the taste with the personal relationship. It's like this, you know, we start from Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and by following very strictly the rules and regulations, purify our heart, come to the level of nishta, when we feel very humble and very tolerant. And that's exactly where also, that's why I mentioned that Vrijbasis also, they have this feeling of humility within their heart. And then after that, we will be able to come to the higher stage of practice, the higher level of practice, more deep practice of devotional service.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, 100 pranams. There's actually one particular question from Sundarup Shamprabhu. He's asking that, Hare Krishna Maharaj, is it correct to think and tell in our chanting prayers that Lord, I'm yours, please engage me in your loving service? Is this correct, Maharaj? Is this
Yes.
is this a different meaning than what is discussed here, Maharaj? Thanks, your servant.
No, it's not different meaning. Again, this is the starting point. You know, it is also Lord Ramachandra in his famous verse from Sundarakanda. Is it Sundarakanda already? Yudakanda? From Yudakanda, probably. Yeah, from Yudakanda, where he says, what is this verse? Sakrideva.
Tavasmiti.
Tavasmiti sayachat. Yes. I am yours. Tava, I am. I am yours, oh my Lord. Tavasmiti sayachate. Sakriteva prapannayah. If somebody surrenders to me even once with this feeling, I belong to you, I am yours, then I will always make him fearless. Abhayam sarvada tasmai. This is my vrata, Lord Ramachandra says. So that's the beginning when we come to the Lord and when surrender. That's the mood of surrender. That's the mood of Sharanagati. And that's actually what Lord Ramachandra teaches in Ramayana. This Ramayana Grantha is a very great scripture which teaches Sharanagati, surrender. But ultimately, according to the higher conception of Srimad Bhagavatam, at one point we have to come to the stage not only that the Lord is that I'm yours, but you are mine. That's what the followers of Srimati Radharani do, and all our acharyas, they are followers of Srimati Radharani. She doesn't say I'm yours; she says you are mine. So this mamata goes to another level of closeness. But we should start from this, I'm yours. We should not imitate too prematurely or too quickly. Yes. Okay, I guess that's it. It's already long enough.
Maharaj, one last thing. They're asking, is there any Shastric basis for the Raksha Bandhan celebrated in India between brothers and sisters?
Well, yeah, there is. Some say that Raksha Bandhan is coming from when Draupadi took, because Draupadi had this sister and brother relationship with Krishna. So when Krishna pricked his hand, and some little drop of blood was in his finger. Then is in his finger. Then Draupadi, she torn her sari and she put the band in his hand. So some say that this is coming from that thing. So, but apparently it was even before that happened. The Raksha Bandhan festival was there after celebrating of Govardhan Puja. So there is definitely, I am not aware of any other episode, but it's definitely there.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much for your
I hope to
association,
see you
Maharaj.
sometime soon.
Devotees can switch on their videos. Maharaj wants to see. And Maharaj, please, whenever you come to India, please visit us and give us your association again. We're all hankering for your association. Is there Narari Chaitanya Prabhu here? If in case.
I don't see.
Yeah, he was in another program, but he keeps remembering you. That Maharaj, he says, is our Maharaj. Because Maharaj stays here, you stayed with us long time, so you become like part of our family.
Okay.
So Prabhuji is there, Nararipu is there. Yeah.
Oh, he is.
We are not able to hear Maharaj.
You don't hear me?
No, Narari Prabhu.
Okay.
He's there standing behind in the hall.
Oh, I see.
We are not able to hear him. We are not able to hear from the
closer,
mic.
Please.
But their audio is not connected for Basuraj Prabhu.
Some audio setting has to be done, I guess.
And hear too much now.
Echo. It's echoing.
Yes, echo.
Hare Krishna, Prasanna Prabhu. It's not audible.
Yes, I'm yours. You are right. Yes, Narahari Chaitanya Prabhu. I see you. Still don't hear.
You can speak from the mobile itself, Prabhuji.
We are not able to hear.
Hare Krishna. Basarashru, can you speak from the mobile itself? Yeah.
You're muted. Please unmute.
Yeah,
Yes.
Maharaj.
Yes. Yes.
How are you, Maharaj?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very
I'm
much.
missing your association. When are you going to be back here?
I'll come. I'm planning to come back to India by Kartik time, hopefully, and then let's see how Krishna will deal with me. When you're planning to open the temple?
Probably February.
February. Okay, so February I'll be with you.
Hi.
Very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maharaj, right now where you are?
In Moscow.
Oh, I see. I met a few devotees of from Russia. They are in Mangalore.
Oh, I see.
We got our new land registration and the Bhumi Puja was there. Day before yesterday I was there.
In Mangalore.
Yeah. Namanishta Prabhu got the land for ISKCON.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
very big piece of land. So we had gone for that Bhumi Puja there.
Okay. Okay.
Anyhow, Maharaj, thank you very much for your.
Okay, thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Happy
Krishna.
Janmashtami to all of you. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Dandavat Maharaj, Hare Krishna.